life is so unpredictable. If you would have came to me and I was a teenager, growing up in Germany, and said, "You're going to play football, American football. You're going to do these things and that," and I'll go, "There's no way." If you'd have told me a few years ago, "You're going to go to space," I'm like, "Not going to happen." If you would have told me you're going to, 10 years ago or 12 years ago, you know what, you're going to take over for Regis Philbin. Regis? You're going to join the cast with Howie Long and Terry Bradshaw and Jimmy Johnson, Kurt Menefee. I said, no way. You're going to be on GMA. No way. Everything I've done has been a no way situation.
Welcome back to another episode of Second Act Stories. We got a good one today. I'm your host, Scott Merritt.
I'm Andy Levine. Yes, we do have a good one. So this was quite an interview that you landed, Scott. Michael Strahan, former NFL player, Hall of Fame player, now a huge television personality. Our podcast has gone to a whole new level with this. Tell us about your interview with Michael Strahan.
Before I do anything, I do want to say that Michael has got to be one of the nicest, kindest, most generous people I've ever spent time with. I mean, just a regular, welcoming, warm guy whose work ethic led him to accomplish the incredible things that we all know him for. Yeah, he had amazing success on the gridiron. His number was retired by the New York Giants. He's in the Hall of Fame. He then went on after retirement to an incredible TV career. We've all seen him on Good Morning America. He hosts The Pyramid. I mean, this guy's got a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, and that just barely scratches the surface.
It's really a new level of second act that we're talking about here. Let's hear his story.
Here's Michael Strahan. According to what I've found, you were born in Houston, but your family moved to Germany when you were 9?
Yeah, I was 9 years old. We moved to Mannheim, Germany from Fort Bragg, North Carolina. My dad was transferred there. He was in the 82nd Airborne Division, and he was transferred to Mannheim, Germany. And yeah, that's where I pretty much grew up. From 9, I moved there when I was 9. Spent all my school years there from then on until half of my senior year, where I came back to Houston for 5 months, live with my uncle, and played football. And that's where I ended up getting one football scholarship. And from there, I really had to learn how to play football. I didn't know over there. I didn't know when I came back and played 1 year of high school. But thank God it worked out. And my parents were there until I was 28 years old. So they spent 19 years there.
So you received a football scholarship from Texas Southern after playing a half a year?
I played 1 year, one season in high school at Westbury High School in Houston. We were not a good team. I did not know what I was doing, but I somehow was good enough to get that one scholarship to at least give me a chance, get my foot in the door.
Amazing. That's amazing. So you go to Texas Southern. You have a good football career at Texas Southern. Fast forward to 93, and the Giants draft you in the second round, right? What was going through your mind at that point? Were you scared? Were you excited?
I think it's a little bit of both. You're excited because you have a chance to continue a football career, which is not guaranteed for anybody, especially some kid coming out of HBCU in Houston. But you're scared because it's the unexpected. And I didn't, you go from being a little fish in a big pond, and then all of a sudden you're the big fish in a little pond, and then now you're back to being the minnow in the big pond.
Right.
And they drafted me with the Giants, and of course I was happy about that, but at the same time thought, why? I was the biggest Lawrence Taylor fan in the world, and I was thinking, okay, they have Lawrence Taylor. Like, nobody can match up to him or even compare. So if you got him, you don't need me. But that ended up being the biggest blessing in the sky, to have a chance to play and watch somebody who I admired and thought was the best defensive player to ever play. So, yeah, I was scared to death when I came to the Giants. Dude, New York, period, scared me. Before I even got on the football field, I was scared of everything here.
So what'd you learn from LT?
I learned that when you're on the practice field, everything you do, you go 100 miles per hour. When you're not on the practice field, you enjoy yourself. But when you are literally on that field and it's time for you to do your defensive plays or practice your pass rush. You don't go through the motions. And you would think that a guy who had accomplished what he had accomplished and was where he was in his career when I joined the team would have coasted. Was never any coasting with him. Everything that he did when it was required for him to be on that practice field, he went 100 miles per hour, 100%.
Was that your personality before you saw the way he
I mean, I
approached
was
it?
always the guy who worked. But to see a guy who was known to be what he was known to be, to still work like that, let me know that no matter what point in your career and your life and your time, you don't slack off. You don't take it for granted. He never took it for granted. And I love that. And that's something that helped me go for 15 years. And at practice, to run around and do all those things that I did probably even better at year 15 than I did at year 5. Is what kept me in the game and kept me, I think, healthy and motivated and interested. Because the biggest thing about football for me, it wasn't as if physically I couldn't continue to play. I just kind of mentally realized I'd put everything I had into it, and I was done after we won that Super Bowl.
Let me rewind to toward the beginning of your career. So you're 4 years in, you're playing, you're on the team, and then in '97 something happens that you just got propelled to break out. What was it that was the turning point for you?
Well, I didn't play in high school. Then I went to a HBCU, a small HBCU in Houston, Texas Southern, and I did great there. But I think I survived in both of those cases because of pure athletic ability and just desire. But when you come to the pros, you can be an athlete and you can have desire, but everybody's an athlete. And most guys have a lot of desire to be great. So that just wasn't good enough. But I was fortunate enough to have a coach, a defensive line coach named Earl Leggett, who taught us everything that we needed to know about playing the defensive line position. I mean, the man was absolutely amazing. And he was also Howie Long's coach and a lot of guys that I admired for the Raiders. And so figuring out what Earl wanted us and how to play the position and how to watch film and how to learn what you're doing, I had to learn. It took me years to learn it. It wasn't just walk in and plug and play and, oh, you're great in college, it's going to work here. Running around a guy in college it doesn't work in the NFL. Just doesn't. And I had to have Earl, who I'm glad I had, to teach me the different techniques I needed to survive out there and to become a better player. And then, like you said, all of a sudden, one day, playing against Washington, first game of the season, and it just clicks. And at that point, it was Earl's, my defensive line coach, first year coaching the line in Washington. So he had just left the Giants. And I think when he was coaching, there was so much pressure from him when you're on the field, and you can just picture him yelling at you, and you're thinking, if I get in this meeting tomorrow, oh my gosh, I better make sure this technique looks good. I was more concerned about the technique than actually the result, because you just didn't want to get in that meeting and not have it right, because this man would talk to you about you and to you like it was crazy.
Yeah.
But once he left, it was like, okay, I have every tool that he took us to know what I'm doing. Now I can do it freely. I had a coach at that point, Denny Marson. Denny wasn't saying anything about technique. He was just saying, get to the quarterback. So Earl taught us how to get to the quarterback. Denny allowed us the mental freedom to not think about it. And that was, I think, why my career changed.
It sounds like Earl shot himself in the foot by giving you everything that you needed to then beat him.
Yeah, I love Earl, man. Without Earl, I would have lasted maybe 2 or 3 years in the NFL. And but as we always say, Earl was a coach you're glad you had. Not you have at the time, because he also, but not because he was just that rough, but he would work you so hard in practice. We started every practice with 30 up downs with change of direction in between each one. So it wasn't like 30 straight up downs. It was like 3 sets of 10, but he may have you shuffle quarter of a mile, it felt like, down the road before you had to get down and get up and come back. He made us, he was so tough on us that the other positions would say, we feel sorry for you guys. Like, he worked us,
Wow.
but he wanted us to be so tired by the time that practice started that we really had to dig deep. And that really, in the long run, I look at it, really helped.
I mean, this is the highest level.
Yeah.
And so
you got to be willing
no
to go
place to go
further
from
than
there.
everybody else. And Earl pushed us, as he said, I want to test your bloodline, what your mom and daddy made of, what you're made of. I'm like, okay, well, you tested mine for sure.
What's the best piece of advice you ever received from a coach, and how did it impact you on the field in entertainment and life?
I think the best piece of advice I ever received from a coach, and Earl used to say this, and John Fox used to say this too, don't let the game be bigger than you. In other words, don't let the moment overwhelm you to where you freeze in the moment. You're not able to execute and do what you're there to do. You practiced it enough. You worked hard at it long enough. When you get in the game, it's just a game. It's this moment when it's a big crucial down and distance, or you need a good sack or a big good pass rush. It's no different from needing a good rush any other point of the game. Just trust in what you've learned. Don't let the game be bigger than you and overwhelm you, because if you do that, you'll look up and you're losing. You just gotta they say rise to the moment, rise to the occasion. But if every occasion kind of just is the same, don't be afraid to shoot your shot.
Right. That's great advice. I got a little bit of a list here, so forgive me. You broke the single season sack record.
Yep.
You sacked Tom Brady in the Super Bowl.
Yep.
You've received tons of honors. You're a 7-time Pro Bowler. You won a Super Bowl. Your number was retired by the Giants. That's pretty rarefied air. You were inducted into the Hall of Fame in your first year of eligibility. What didn't you accomplish in your career?
It would have been nice. Only thing I look at now and I go, that would have been nice, was to be the player of the year for the NFL as a defensive player. Something that LT did. That would have been pretty damn good. Had we had a winning season when I broke the sack record, I probably would have had a chance to do it. But there's nothing in my career, there's nothing I can look back on and be disappointed at all. I'll be honest with you, I accomplished 100 times more things than I expected to accomplish. So I look back at my life and career and amazed that I even had one, because I didn't grow up playing a sport. So it's great to be a late bloomer, I guess.
What does it mean to be a standout player when you're part of a team?
It means being dependable. Doesn't mean trying to do things to bring attention to yourself. Let your play bring the attention to you. You don't have to do anything outside of that for the attention. And it's understanding that you're going to probably get more positive attention than you deserve. Just as much, you're probably going to get more of the negativity when you deserve, because you're the face of it all. Mm-hmm. But just stay even keel with all of it. Don't get too high when you're winning. Don't get too low when you're losing. And also, when you're the leader, everybody looks at you. Something goes wrong on the field, guys look at you in the huddle,
right.
And with a panic look on their face. And you always have to be the one, no matter what, who looks calm, who looks collected, who looks like you've been there before, who never looks overwhelmed, and looks like you're built for that moment, even if inside you may be a little panicked. You got to make sure that you're the one that lets everyone else know it's going to be okay.
Did you have any kind of formal leadership training?
No. But my dad was a commander in the Army, so to watch my dad, the way he treated people, the way that he ran the company that he commanded, the discipline that he had as a soldier, the same thing for me. And I think when the leadership thing, a lot of it is seen too. So for me, I worked out every day after practice. I never deviated from the plan and said, "Oh, not today. I'm not willing." And I think it was important too that guys saw me willing to put in the work, no matter what year it was for me, no matter how much success I'd had, because there's no excuse for them not to. Right. And I can't tell someone else to do something I'm not willing to do either. So, I just think it was the way I was brought up.
So let's talk about your transition now. You retired from the NFL with this unbelievably storied career. Lots of players make the transition to the broadcast booth.
Yep.
Right. But talk to me about what gave way to you breaking away from the broadcast booth and finding yourself sitting in for Regis Philbin.
Well, I tell you, if it weren't for sports, I wouldn't have any career. I don't know what my life would be, to be honest with you. So to go and do the broadcasting, NFL broadcasting was the perfect training ground for anything I've done past that. And I think everybody looks and think, oh, look at all the great things you've done. But I am telling you this, without doing Fox NFL, without doing the best damn sports show for Fox, well before that, those prepared me for anything that I did. It made filling in for Regis when I was just guest hosting or when I took over full time. It made that so much easier on me because I had experienced live TV. I'd experienced, having to work with partners and having to be a good listener and having to be a good storyteller. So, the transition wasn't easy, but it was probably harder going straight to commentating about football than it was about any of these other things that I'm doing outside of maybe the news.
That's really interesting. Why would it be harder for you to talk about football, something that was your life?
Yeah, but it's a way in which you have to talk about it. If everyone when you play football, everybody thinks it's easy to talk about it, or if you play, you could be a coach. That's just the case. It's a matter of how to express your experiences with the game, how to explain to the audience in a way in which they easily understand what you see, which may be a lot more complicated.
Okay.
And also, I felt like to give a perspective that you just can't pick up the paper and read from anybody. Like you were in the locker room, you were in that huddle at these types of moments. Like, how do I express what it feels like to be in that in the best way possible for the audience to feel like they're really immersed in it? And I think that was the more difficult part, trying to find your own voice within it instead of just being like most other guys and say, well, the usual cliches.
So is it correct to say that you also had to edit what your thoughts were? Like you didn't want to say certain things, even though you might have known what was really going on behind the scenes?
No, not necessarily edit. It's not even editing. It's just like making it simple. You can go I write 35. You can go in all this terminology, offset backs, triple Y. Like you can do all that. Who in the hell at home is going to understand that? Sometimes guys say stuff, and I played 15 years, and I'm like, what is that? If you go and give a poll out, what's cover 1? What's cover 2? What's cover 3? What's cover 4? How many guys really know that? No one.
Right. A little.
Players don't even know that unless they're playing a defensive back. So for me, it's a matter of just making it more simple for the audience and not necessarily editing your thoughts. And, I think a lot of guys, it's funny when they say, well, I don't know if this guy can do that because he got to be critical of other players. And maybe this guy, he's such a great, I don't know if he can be critical of other players. And I don't look at it as editing your thoughts or being afraid of being critical. I think that people respect honesty. And there are times that I watch shows and I'm like, okay, that guy, he just seems like he's angry at the world and he's just criticizing, just criticize. Or you can tell that like he's just got something angry about his comments about somebody. Maybe it's like a personal thing. But then you can tell somebody who may say something that can be jarring or striking, but at the same time it's said in a way in which there's an honesty behind it because that's their opinion of what they're seeing. And it's not an ill will or malice. So I think your presentation, the way in which you say things, is as important as what you say.
That's really interesting insight because I've never thought about it that way. And I watch a lot of football. So good to hear it from your perspective. So let's talk about, you've carved this Emmy-winning path, hosting news and talk. At some point, you brought a historic, my favorite game show back to life.
Pyramid.
How did that happen and why the Pyramid?
Well, I always loved Pyramid, Dick Clark, back in the day doing the show, but I never thought I was ever going to host a game show. I wasn't even in the cards. And Sony approached us, and me and my partner Constance, and they wanted to bring back Pyramid. And we're like, okay, great. We looked into it. We said, okay, that would be unbelievable to host a game show. But at the same time, I just don't want to be a host of a game show. I want to have skin in the game, you know, and on the production side of it. And Sony came back and said, no, that's what we had in mind. We want to work with you on this game show to produce it as well. And I think that that's when it really became exciting and real to me, when I realized, you know, just being a talking head is one thing, but actually really be involved in a process of creating something, having a say in how it goes and what happens is more valuable to me. So when that happened, we were all in on Pyramid, had to reshape the show, try to keep as many classic elements as we could without modernizing it too much, because they had tried in the past and they've rebooted it several times. But I think sometimes it's a little too modern of whatever. The game is so simple. You don't need to get fancy, you know? We still have guys who turn those trilons. When the category, guys back there hand turn those.
Oh, that's
because it's particular.
It's not automatic?
No, it's not like you. Those are computers, are screens, obviously, but there are people who actually turn those each time because it's just something that feels good about. And when you hear the noise of when it turns and how it clicks and all that stuff, you don't get that by just hitting a button and the words change on the screen. So the flipping of that stuff, like some of these things, we wanted to keep as much as we could when it came to the old show, and the show is the star, and that's what I like about it. I don't want to be the guy who has to go and entertain the whole show. That's not my job. My job is just to be a facilitator, because the contestants are the stars. I'm just a facilitator, and I think that's important to realize. When I watched Dick Clark do it, I said, well, let me watch the best do it before I jump into this thing.
Yeah.
And Dick Clark was so good at letting the words and the people and what they say be the entertainment. And then every once in a while, interject yourself if you have to, but not to try to, you know, build your status or ego or whatever by thinking it needs to be about you. And I think that's been a great thing about Pyramid, is to sit back and let other people have their moments. I like that.
That's really cool. So I'm going to go off script here for a second.
Go ahead.
In the winner's circle, somebody doesn't win the grand prize. Mm-hmm. And then you come over and you start feeding them clues that would have been like the perfect clue. Mm-hmm. Is that you?
Sometimes. Most of the time it's me. Every once in a while, I do have my producer in my ear who'll say, well, try this, say that. But for the most time, it's me. And all of the, and then when we're doing the show, if there's a little comment I make after somebody says something or something, that's me. All that stuff is just off the cuff.
Right.
And that's what you got to listen. You have to pay attention. And that's the fun thing about it, is I have to pay attention, because every once in a while I do need to throw a little something in there that I really need to pay attention to. But it's I know the categories. I don't know the words.
Right.
So I'll know things that rhyme with cat, whatever. I don't know what the words are. So when the words pop up there, I'm watching like everybody else at home and everybody who's in the studio. I'm watching them play off a word that I hadn't seen yet. So the second I see it, I start thinking about what I would say.
Right.
And half the time they say what I would say. Sometimes they don't. And when they don't, I probably give them a hard time about it. But yeah, that's the great thing about it. It's not scripted to say, well, they're going to say this and that, and this is going to be the word. Michael, you already know, so you know what to say. No, I think that's not authentic, and I think that it wouldn't come across as authentic, and I think that ruins the feel and vibe of the show.
Yeah, the most authentic part of it is often seeing your reaction to some of the things that get said.
Some people say some stuff, and I'm going, what is wrong with you? Like, that's really what you thought for that word?
Yeah,
people are interesting, man. People are really interesting. I'll tell you that.
So, what is the biggest hurdle that you face every day when you wake up?
Biggest hurdle I face every day when I wake up. Man, that's a heck of a question. I don't look at anything as a hurdle, actually. I just kind of look at it as life, and just waking up and doing what you got to do. I think my biggest hurdle is probably I don't get a chance to do half the stuff that I wish I could do. I think time management is important as a hurdle sometimes. I think that all the demands on my time by outside people is a hurdle that I have to get over, and I've had to learn to say no. Yeah, say no, can't do it,
Makes it even
and not
more
feel
important.
and not feel guilty about it because want to please people, want to make people happy. I have a lot of friends, and people are demanding, but now I'm getting to the point I just say no if I don't want to do it, and there's no if and but or reason about it. I just don't want to do it.
Right. Well, that makes it even more important to me that you said yes to this.
Of course.
So thank you for that. Let's talk about self-doubt. Right. You've achieved so much. You've accomplished so much. How do you overcome self-doubt?
Just push through it. I mean, there's no other way. We all doubt ourselves. Always say that you'll doubt yourself 10 times more than anybody else ever will. Because you may tell somebody a great idea you had. Oh, I want to go, do this. And they'll go, oh, man, you can't do that. Then they've forgotten about it. They moved on. They told you one time you can't forget about it. You can't do it. They doubted you once, they move on. You doubt yourself 100 times after they say that because they planted the doubt seed. So you always doubt yourself more than anybody else ever will. But I think the key for me has been, I'm scared, I'm fearful, I'm this, I'm that. I've never done anything that I'm doing right now for a living. Never done it in my life. Didn't even go to school for it. Couldn't even train for it. Just had to get into it and figure it out. But the only way to do that is to just go for it and not be afraid to something doesn't work. If it doesn't work, you know what I mean? You chalk it up to, I tried. You learn from it and you move on. There's no such thing, in my opinion, when you're trying something to try to accomplish something as failure. It's more like a learning curve or something you learn from that's going to help you in the next endeavor. And I had to get over that whole feeling of failing and being afraid because everybody had a first day at something. No one didn't. You didn't just show up successful in whatever business you're in. You had a first day. You screwed up. You made mistakes. You tried it. Why can't I have the same kind of grace with myself to give myself a chance to try something and succeed or fail?
I love that answer. Grace is always the answer, right? Mm-hmm. You talked about fear. What intimidates you?
What intimidates me? Kind of at the point of where not much. It used to be, I think I just had a different mindset than I have now. Used to be intimidated by someone like, okay, oh, this person or that person, and they've done this and they've done that, and look how accomplished they are. Now it doesn't intimidate me anymore because I look and think people are people. Like, they're human like I am. When they leave here, they're probably going to go have fun like I'm going to have fun. They're going to go live like I'm going to live. And they have wife, and family, and kids and problems and everything else. So I'm not intimidated by, I guess, people anymore. I don't really know how much really intimidates me. I hate doing hosting things. That intimidates me. Not shows, but like award events and all that stuff.
Right. Yeah.
I don't like doing that.
Okay.
A crowded room full of people looking out there. I don't like that.
You have to dance for them.
Yeah, it was kind of like, I'm an extroverted introvert, actually. When I'm not on camera or all that, I don't like attention like that. I'm very happy being at home, doing my thing, staying out of the limelight, going into a restaurant, sitting in the back where no one sees me. I do not have to sit at the front table and be recognized and noticed. I've never been that guy. So, I'm kind of intimidated at times by being put in that position because I prefer to play the background outside of my work.
Okay. That's an interesting answer. In the midst of everything else, you run a management company, you produce shows, you launched a menswear line, you just recently launched a skincare line. Tell me about how you uphold the quality of your personal brand while you're juggling that much.
You only do things that you're interested in that are authentic. I don't do anything that's not authentic to me on my own personal brand. So if it's a suit, I'm wearing it. If it's skincare, I use it every day. If it's anything that I promote or is part of like my own personal brand is something that really I'm in need of, and something that's organic to me that I just want to share with other people. And when it comes to production companies and all that, producing things that you believe in, not doing it for the money, but doing it because you know it's the right thing, or it's a great story, or something that needs to be told, and having a great partner and great people you work with. I mean, that's key. Like any football team, I don't have success that I have now outside of football without a great team of guys who played with me over 15 years and helped me win a lot. We lost a lot together. We worked hard together. We won a Super Bowl, but I didn't do all that and can't do all that by myself. And I when you hear guys, well, I did this and I did that. You did. They did. Definitely did. But you also did it with a lot of help that you may not realize at the time. But I always realized I always had great guys and girls, especially now work with me at SMAC, to help carry me and to help me be able to manage everything and do it with the same idea of how I would manage it. I don't worry about anybody on my team doing anything that would not be up to the standards or the level of respect and the quality at which I would do something for myself. Got to have the right people.
You've reached the top in more than one industry. What's the best advice you could offer to somebody whose objective is excellence?
Never deviate from that. Never. Don't compromise what you want and your belief and being excellent at what you do for someone else. And don't be afraid if someone laughs at the work that you're putting in. In college, I used to, work out, lift weights, and run when everybody else was hanging out and relaxing and enjoying life and chasing girls and drinking and partying. But I realized that I wasn't in college just to survive. I was in college to get out of college. I was in college to get out of college and make a life for myself, for my family. So don't be afraid because someone else criticizes or can't see the vision that you have for yourself. It's not their job to see the vision that you have for yourself. That's why it's your vision. It's your job to see the vision that you have. And it's up to you to stick with it. And that's what I love, man. Life is so unpredictable. If you would have came to me and I was a teenager, growing up in Germany, and said, you're going to play football, American football, you're going to do these things and that. And I'll go, there's no way. If you'd have told me a few years ago, you're going to go to space, I'm like, not going to happen. If you would have told me you're going to, 10 years ago or 12 years ago, you know what, you're going to take over for Regis Philbin. Regis? You're going to join the cast with Howie Long and Terry Bradshaw and Jimmy Johnson, Kurt Menefee. I said, no way. You're going to be on GMA. No way. Everything I've done has been a no way situation. Things that I necessarily at times couldn't see for myself. But once I learned to get out of my way and see myself as more than just a football player, once I retired, I think that kind of opened up the world for me.
Yeah.
Because what you do is not necessarily who you are. And in your life, you're able to do multiple things. And I almost felt like when I first retired that you play football and everyone knows you have success there and that's all you're good at and that's all they want to see you as. I had to convince myself that, but that was just a time in my life, but I need to see myself as more than a football player for other people to see me as more than just a football player. And once I got that mindset, it's paid off.
You just mentioned that you went to space. So all that stuff, right? And then you also went to space. You went to space. Right? There's
good thing I'm
this
back.
many people.
That's the thing. Coming back from space was number one thing.
There's so few people that have ever done that. What's left on your bucket list?
Retirement. Retirement. My bucket list, I've done so much stuff, and a lot of it I keep forgetting about. I've even done. So my bucket list, honestly, I just wake up every day and go for it. And, it just to be at a point where I can kind of have the freedom to do what I want, when I want, and how I want is a luxury. But more satisfying than that is to be at a point where I can have a business that creates opportunity for other people. And I love that. I love the young people I work with. I love the responsibility of running a business that they depend on, and that's kind of motivating to me to wake up every day, because I learned in football, if you're playing football for yourself and the trophies and accolades that are come your way for you, it's not enough. Just not. You can't play for money, just not enough. It's too hard. And that's really what life is right now for me. It's too hard to do what I do in a lot of ways for just the money or accolades or anything like that. It had to be a bigger picture. And for me, the bigger picture has always been other people and how they depend on me and how I depend on them and how we work together and like watching these young kids grow who I work with. I absolutely love it. That's motivating.
So there we have it. That was my conversation with the great Michael Strahan.
Amazing interview, Scott. Kudos, bravo to you for doing this. I had a couple of interesting takeaways. I just wanted to sort of ping you a little about them from the interview. My first one is towards the end of the interview, he started riffing about the importance of a team. And he talked about it on the gridiron. He talked about it in television. And I just wondered your thoughts on that part of the conversation.
Yeah, he talked a lot about it, yes. And it's important. So as business people outside of a podcast, we rely on our teams to get the job done well. And he's no different, right? He was a big star on the football field. He's a huge star on TV. But without a great team, he wouldn't be able to reach that level of success. And I think it was clear that he recognized that. And it really applies no matter where you are, what you do. A team is so important to success.
There's a word that comes up over and over again in this interview, and Michael just repeats it. It's the word authentic. And he has a couple of lines in there where he says, I am only going to do things that are authentic to my personality and what I'm all about. Comment on that as well, will you, for us?
In my life, I've focused heavily on authenticity, and I've learned a lot about it. And it was so refreshing to hear him talking about it in terms of the way he lives his life. And, it's true because it shines through. When somebody's truly authentic, you really get the sense that, that is who they are. And I can confirm for you that the guy that you see on TV, who's this charismatic, really the host that you just love to look at and listen to, that's exactly who he is. That's exactly who he is. On camera, off camera, he is who he is. And that's authenticity. And that means, this is a guy who's being honest.
He is obviously a big personality, but I also want to just push our listeners to take a look at the photo of you and him together from our website. This is a huge man. I mean, this is whatever it is, 6'5". I don't know what he weighs now, but he just looks like a mountain of a person.
I'm no slouch. I'm not a small person, but if you want to look small, stand next to Michael Strahan. He truly is a giant in every sense of the word. But the fact is, it doesn't matter how physically imposing he may appear. He's the most generous, warmest, approachable guy. And really, his size helped him in a lot of ways, especially on the gridiron. But, he's just such a great person. And it was a joy to talk to him. It really, really was.
Well, great job on this interview. Why don't you take it home and let's close out this episode.
Great. Andy and I are always on the lookout for new people to profile on Second Act Stories. If you have a candidate you'd like to suggest, we want to hear from you. Just visit our website at www.secondactstories.org, click the Nominate a Guest box at the top of the homepage, and fill out the form. If you like the show, we'd love for you to rate us. That helps other people find it, and we're grateful for you spreading the word. We hope you'll keep listening. There are more Second Act Stories just around the corner.